ربنا إني أسكن من ذريتي بواد غير ذي زرع إن بيتك محرم ربنا ليقيموا الصلاة.
O, our Creator, I have made some of my offspring reside in a barren valley by your hallowed house. Arid and semi-arid zones cover more than 90% of the land of Iran. Of the 415 billion cubic meters of annual precipitation over the mountains and plains of Iran, upwards of 50 billion cubic meters form the runoff that drains into the Persian Gulf and the Oman and Caspian Seas, inland lakes, playas, and salt flats. A blessing in disguise but bestowed upon us is transfigured into destructive floods that bring devastation. And the well, the supposedly beating heart of the land, a window seemingly open to the aquifers, the underground waters. But alas, a dry one, an empty table. An indication of drought, a symbol of famine. And Kariz, the gift of the Persians to humanity, an institution on which the Persian civilization was based. The arteries that gave life to countless souls in 7 millennia. Alas, substantial overdraft of our groundwater resources has left empty aquifers. No blood is running in half of these vessels. The land is almost dead. The pump, a symbol of inappropriate technology, has sucked the life-giving substance out of aquifers and has left an emaciated body that only a miracle can enliven. And thirst in the countryside. On mass migration. Ghost towns alongside the parched land. Thirsty land, the target of water and wind erosion. These walls remind us of the departed husbands, strangers in town, homeless and hopeless. evicted from the village and lost in the wilderness of megacities. Hunger, ignorance, and short-sightedness have wreaked havoc on the environment, particularly in the deserts. Overgrazing and fuel wood collection have denuded vast expanses of rangeland, depriving their soils of the vegetative cover that protected them against erosive rains and destructive winds. A decrease in permeability, a dire consequence of denudation, is a forerunner of the destructive floods. Recurrent droughts transform productive soils into wastelands. And then, the occurrence of devastating floods closes this vicious circle. The ferocious beast shows its teeth and lashes at the naked body of the abused land. And man, the steward of the earth, and the master of the universe, the same man who searches for water on Mars, looks on helpless. A blessing has been turned into a wrath. Our laxity has borne its bitter fruit, and man is the prisoner of his own ignorance. The overflowing spillway of the Duradzam Dam, flooding has devastated the population of the Korba Plain, a formerly prosperous farming community, and man is the prisoner of his own ignorance. Of the 12 million hectares of the drifting sands and moving dunes in Iran, a very small island lies in the Gharibaigan Plain, 200 kilometers to the southeast of Shiraz. But please ignore my face value. The land is beaming an urgent message. I am hiding underneath an aquifer that can store 150 million cubic meters of water. It is a treasure house. It is true that these Syrian rue bushes are indicators of a severely eroded land, but the place has also the potential to be turned into a verdant scenery, the Elysium. The Kothar Floodwater Spreading and Aquifer Management Research, Training and Experiment Station is a paradise in a 7,000 hectare sandy desert. Greenery and water throw the exhausted travelers into ecstasies. The Gurubeygan, a sandy plain with dry, hot summers and rather wet, cold winters. Strong winds, some with the force of gales that blow from April to September, erode the soil and reduce visibility considerably. Dr. Kothser, a scientist with the Fars Research Center for Natural Resources and Animal Husbandry, talks of an incessant effort to bring prosperity to a dilapidated land.
In 1982, the Reconstruction Corps, جهاد سازندگی, had dug a well to supply irrigation water to raise fodder for the nomads who resided in the Gurubeygan plain. Unfortunately, it could supply only a limited volume of water. A 24 horsepower pump could suck the well dry in just 10 minutes. That is why we came here. We were supposed to irrigate small grains and corn for silage with flood water. As the soil was sandy and the flood occurrence was uncertain, we proposed the artificial recharge of groundwater and range dam improvement through floodwater spreading instead. The least we could achieve was providing the badly needed forage for the livestock, and the most, the sky was the limit. Here I show you how it works. This is an ephemeral river whose flow is going to be harnessed. We divert the flow through an inlet and transfer it through an inundation canal to the head of the command area. The flow fills up the conveyor spreader channel, a very long stilling basin. The destructive force of the flood is dissipated here, and a thin sheet of water flows on a very long front and covers the land. Some of the suspended load is settled here. This is called a sedimentation basin. Part of the water infiltrates into the soil, and the surcharge is drained through the gaps into a level sealed channel. Please observe a masonry chute in a gap. We build these chutes only in erodible soils. This process is repeated many times over until the rather clear water enters the recharge pond. The surcharge of this pond is returned to the river through a tail drain. Here, water is flowing from the inundation canal into the conveyor spreader channel, then flows as a sheet over the ground. The surcharge drains through the gap and into a level sealed channel. This process is repeated many times until the surcharge of the system is returned to the river.
Although the most obvious result of the project implementation has been reclamation of a desert and enhancement of environmental quality. The change in the social structure is a more remarkable outcome of the endeavors. The 4 villages in the Gary-Baygon Plain may be unique in a sense that their population has increased due to migration reversal. A substantial increase in the volume of accessible water in the aquifer has encouraged the previous migrants to return to their land and make a nice living through farming. The number of high-yielding irrigation wells has increased tenfold to 130. Water table has risen much closer to the surface. Allah's bounty has filled the tables. The treasure is hidden underground. The absence of men from the houses this time around is a good omen. They are working in the fields. The earth's heartbeat is heard in Gary-Baygon again. Harvest of golden spikes, transfiguration of muddy waters into gold. A curse has been converted into a blessing, a permanent one. Tens of millions of unemployed manual laborers subsist in the deserts. They have to be fed and housed. It is more dignified that alms be given to them as wages to make the wasteland bear fruit, than if they were to perish due to the waste of floodwater. Eucalyptus camaldulensis has shown a great adaptability to the Gary-Baygon Plain. The height of some 18-year-old individuals exceeds 25 meters, and the diameter of one at breast height is 63 centimeters. Establishment of windbreaks is a common practice to control wind erosion. What is the man thinking about? Greening of another wasteland? And the wildlife that come for the feast? Deposition of suspended load in the sedimentation basins has stabilized the moving sands. Settlement of silt, clay, and organic matter has covered the soil with an erosion-resistant armor. In the absence of this armor, the denuded sand is easily eroded by wind. Water management is often the key to many aspects of desertification control. The artificial recharge of groundwater, where practicable, transforms a desert into a paradise. Allah has chosen the nicest place on the planet Earth for His house, the land of Batha, better known as Mecca, a deep, coarse alluvium. When Abraham declared that he had made some of his offspring reside in a barren valley by the house of Allah, he probably did not know that a droughty and cropless surface soil is neither a good indicator of the lack of water underneath, nor a symptom of the infertility of the land. Water isn't easily come by. It is only through hard work, humbleness, and supplication that good fortune of pure, abundant water emerges in a desert. Flood, by the will of Allah, formed the Batha and built an aquifer to reside in. Zamzam was the very floodwater resting underground for ages, to quench Hajar and Ismail's thirst in due time. O our Creator, certainly you have not created the floodwater and the coarse-grained alluvium in vain.